Hi, this is Brown and the Brave, and I'm showing how to join your work for knitting in the round on double pointed needles. So far I've cast on 25 stitches using a long tail cast on, and I'm putting them all on one double pointed needle. This one's about 7 inches long, and I will transfer those to 2 more needles in just a minute. But I put them all on one needle to begin with. If I can. If I have too many stitches, then I'll do it over several. But I like to kind of hold my pinky against this first stitch that I cast on, and that just holds them to keep them from falling off the end of the needle. And as I cast on more stitches, I kind of just scrunch them up, but I'm spacing them with my index finger here. So I just put my finger there, and it holds the space, and as I cast on another one, I advance my finger. And that should be 28, I think. And I'm knitting 1x1 ribbing for this. This will just be for like a cuff of a mitten. And 28 divided by 3 is not an even multiple, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to do 10, 10, and 8. And when I transfer these stitches to my other DPNs, I'm just going to do that carefully here without like getting all crazy with flipping it around. There's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And when I let go of these needles, I'm just going to move these stitches to the center of the needle, and I'm going to let it rest on my table. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to flip around that way. If you're working like on the couch or something, you can rest it in your lap or set a pillow in your lap just so you have something to rest it on, and it'll give you a little bit of reassurance that it's not going to go wonky on you. For my second needle, 7. I'll do 8 on this one. And then again, I'm letting this just kind of rest. Both of these needles are resting on my table. And let me just double check my count. 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That should be 10. Okay, so now I have my stitches on the needles. This is my cast on right here. And you can see that they form this nice little bead of this angle, right? So they're all at this angle. We want that line to all be in the center. And again, you want to have something to rest these on. If you can do it in your lap, if you feel confident with that, a table or a pillow, those are always handy. So here's my tail. I want to get that out of the way, and that is in the front for right now. This is my working yarn. That's just going to hang out right there. So again, this is the line that we're looking at. If you line them back up, you should see these lines again. So this angle, if it's twisted twice, it's going to look, there's a little twist right there. It's tighter and it's twisted. That's what it should look like. Again, this is a long tail cast on. Other cast ons will look different. We want to cross these needles, put the yarn in back, and flip this around so we can get to the needle that we need. Again, there's my tail. It's extra long. And I just hold these 2 needles as close as I can. The working yarn is coming from the back. And I always like to begin my purl sequence with, or to begin with my ribbing sequence with a knit. It's just having that purl stitch as a first stitch on the needle, it tends to stretch out that thread between the two, and it doesn't have a good look oftentimes. But then also, just for memory's sake, knowing that every needle begins with a knit stitch is just a memory trigger that I know that I don't have to think, okay, no, am I on a knit or a purl? It's just always going to be a knit. So this, I keep letting go, but this is going to be the trickiest stitch you ever work. And I'm just going to pull this snug. And that first stitch of a long tail cast on is usually loose anyway. We will fix that in a different video. Oh, that's going to be a purl. In the second stitch, I want to pull that snug. So that's it. If you do happen to twist your needle, twist your stitches on that first round, like if you set your work down for some reason and your needle tip goes into the center, this is what it would look like. It's twisted around. You can see it's doing this little tornado around the needle. But we can just fix it like this. So, and it happens either direction. It can go under or into the front. So it is possible to fix it on the first go. All right, I've worked around all 3 needles and come back to the beginning of my round. Here's my tail, and you have a couple of different options for marking the beginning of the round. A lot of knitters will use the tail, and that works great if you're going to be working on a short piece of work. Sometimes you'll still want to use a stitch marker. There's a couple different ways that you can do that. Obviously, if you place a stitch marker at the end of your needle, it's going to fall off immediately. No matter where you place it, at the end of your needle, you will drop it at some point. So you could place it in the stitch and transfer it every time. That's going to get pretty tedious. If you're only working like 28 stitches, you're going to get through those rounds pretty quickly. Another option would be to place this between the first 2 stitches and just tell yourself that first stitch is actually the stitch before the marker is the first stitch, the beginning of the round. And if you're working in ribbing, it's really easy to tell that if you know that the first stitch is always your knit stitch, then that's, your signal. But most of the time I just use the tail. This is the yarn that joined. So this is the first stitch that I knit after I cast on. And this running thread right here is the working yarn left over from the long tail cast on. If I try to tighten this by knitting the last stitch tight, it doesn't do anything. This is actually coming from the first stitch of the round, the first stitch that I knit. So once I knit this stitch, then it becomes, I'm going to get rid of that. It just closes that gap. If there's any kind of gap left over, I have another video that will show you how to weave in the ends and disguise any kind of gap that cast on leaves. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to receive notifications when I publish new videos like this, be sure to subscribe to my channel.